Hey guys, so today's video is a little bit different. I've been really enjoying watching makeup inventory videos and I kind of want to count how many things I have in my collection. So I kind of want to do that, but at the same time give you speed reviews of everything I own, tell you what's good, what's bad, what's worth the money. This video is going to be split into parts, obviously, because otherwise it'll be 3 hours long. And I'm going to put some disclaimers on the screen right now because I just don't really think anyone needs this much makeup, and I want to make clear that this video is not about showing off. To be honest, I think my makeup collection is probably on the smaller side of what you see on YouTube anyway, but I still do think it's too much. So I really want to count how much I have and hopefully decrease this number at the end of the year. Also, I just want to say my hands are pretty chubby. Like, I don't have long, slender fingers like Hannah Louise Poston. I really like her top-down videos. They always look so aesthetic, and she's got really pretty hands, but it's not the same case here. Look at these bare claws. But anyway, let's get started. So I really want to start off with base products. So we're going to start off with foundation. Okay, so this is kind of all of the foundation I own, and I'm just gonna go in and tell you about each product. So first of all, you can see I've got 3 of these Shiseido Synchro Skin Self-Refreshing Foundation, definitely a bit much. The shade Shell, Sand and Oak. I actually had a 4th one that I gave to my mum because this was my wedding foundation. I got into a panic with not having the right shade, so I bought so many. Very wasteful. Definitely not necessary, but it's because I don't really have a Shiseido counter to go and try and shade match. This is a great foundation, full coverage, wears well, does not look cakey. I felt really confident with my skin on my wedding day. This is such a good foundation. Let's just get this one out of the way. There's a review of this foundation on my channel. So I do think this is a good foundation. It's just not worth the hype. And there are definitely mica particles in it. If you want to hear my thoughts and see the wear test, you can check out the video on my channel. Okay, so I got 2 of this Becca. This is the Becca Aqua Luminous Perfecting Foundation. So this is kind of like a skin tint, and it's got a little dropper mechanism to dispense the foundation like this. But obviously this is discontinued now, so I won't go into too much about it. But basically I do like it as a sort of like skin tint light coverage foundation. Another light coverage skin tint that I really like is the Ciate London Dewy Skin Glass Glow Skin Tint is what it's called. I don't know if they still sell this, but I have a tutorial on my channel using this, and it really did give me like a glass skin effect. I really like wearing this in the summer, and I feel like it wears well throughout the day. So now we've got a little sample size of the Colourpop Tinted Moisturizer in the shade Fair 4N. This is, yeah, a little bit too light for me, I gotta say. And also the texture of this just feels a little bit weird. Like, it doesn't, I don't know if it's because this is sample size or something, but it doesn't feel smooth. Like, can you see those little lumps there? Right? It is, it's like almost something in there that hasn't mixed properly, but I don't really like this. I feel like it sits on my skin, not so good. I completely forgot I had these 2 foundations hiding as well. This is another Becca one. This is the Ultimate Coverage Foundation. I really don't like this. It looks cakey. Blech. And another classic is the L'Oreal Infallible, obviously. I don't know. I feel like this oxidizes really badly on me whenever I wear it. It is kind of like similar to the Shiseido one in terms of coverage, but I just prefer the Shiseido one. It does have quite a strong smell that I'm not really into. So this is the Kevyn Aucoin Sensual Skin Enhancer. It's such a small pot, but honestly, this is so pigmented. It is insane. Like the tiniest amount, can you see? Just a little bit. And I put it on the back of my hand. You see how far that stretches? You can just keep going and keep going and keep going. Super high coverage. So I do think this can work really well if you know how to work it. You just have to kind of maybe use a little bit of setting spray when you blend it out. Obviously, you make sure you go a little bit at a time to avoid it building up. I have mine in the shade SX04 and it works pretty well on me actually. I basically just use tiny bits around the areas that I feel like I need a little bit more coverage, and I even wear it on kind of no foundation days and use this as a concealer. I do think this is a very kind of multi-purpose product, but there is definitely a bit of a learning curve in how to use this. So I feel like if you're someone who's super easygoing and just don't really want to think about makeup, this is not the thing for you. But if you're interested in something that is super full coverage, this might be something that you're interested in to try out. So I truly think this is the most underrated foundation. I have to say, I do buy products that are super hyped, because when they're super hyped and there are a lot of good reviews, obviously you want to get it to test it out for yourself. But this, I just saw Katie Jane Hughes use it on like an Instagram story or reel, whatever it was, and it just looked really good. So I bought it, and also I bought it for my full face of Ciate London video, and honestly I love it so much. This is the Extraordinary foundation. It's got radiant buildable coverage, and it's so true. It's the Makeup by Mario foundation, but better. It's got better coverage, and it's got the dewiness without the sparkles. I love this. And it's got a pump as well. If I kind of just show you here. So it just squeezes out, and can you see? So it's got great coverage, right? You can sort of see how well it's covering the skin on my forearm. And it just looks great. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm looking at my forearm right now, and it just like reminds me of how much I like this foundation. Okay, right, let's talk about the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Foundation. This is probably my favorite foundation. If I had to pick one, I would pick this one, because it's just really suitable for every day. You can build it up. You can use your fingers to put it on your face. It just works really well with my skin. I never feel like this looks cakey. It just blurs out my pores. And I feel like you can see on the back of my hand now, it just kind of gives everything a soft focus effect. And I feel like it doesn't really look like makeup. So this is a Kevyn Aucoin on this side, and this is a Lisa Eldridge on this side. And I can just see this looks so soft, so blurred. Because it's a Kevyn Aucoin, it does require a little bit of work. So at the moment, this is looking a little bit more cakey and more noticeable. But yeah, this is a really fantastic foundation that wears well, applies well, just looks amazing. Lastly, the Pat McGrath foundation. So I did buy into the hype, and I think I was watching Morgan Turner makeup and Patty Alonso, and it was within a week they were talking about their favorite makeup of the year or something, and both of them talked about the Pat McGrath foundation and the concealer and the powder and everything. So I thought, you know what, let's pull the trigger, give it a go. And Pat McGrath was having a sale as well. So the foundation, it's okay. You can see it's super liquidy. I have mine in shade 7. It's alright. Like, I don't hate it, but I prefer my Dewy Skin Tint by Ciate, Extraordinary Foundation by Ciate, and Lisa Eldridge. I do think the effect this foundation gives is very similar to the Lisa Eldridge. It just doesn't look like skin as much as a Lisa Eldridge foundation, but I mean, putting it on my forearm right now, and it still looks pretty good. So it's definitely not a bad foundation by any means. But is it worth the price tag? No, definitely not. If you want to give this a go, then definitely buy it when it's on sale. I don't regret buying it and definitely will use it, but it's not one of my favorites. Let's talk concealers. Okay, so this is all of my concealers, and I definitely think it's a little bit too many. This is the Maybelline Instant Anti-Age Eraser. I don't really know why I have so many shades. This is kind of unacceptable, to be honest. I think I got some darker ones thinking it could be used almost as a contour, but Do I actually use it? No, of course not. But it's a really good affordable concealer. I can't deny that. But the problem is when I have other things that are more expensive in my collection, I don't go for the affordable one because I feel like I have to get more use out of the things that I really spent my money on. Do you know what I mean? So this is just kind of at the back of the drawer, not getting used. That's not okay because makeup has an expiry date. Also, I do just want to say at one point I did take this off and I feel like it just didn't apply quite as nicely without the sponge when it was just a concealer squirting out. So I bought new ones that had the sponge tip still. I know people say it's not hygienic or whatever, but I really do think the concealer applies better when a sponge tip is still on there. So this is a concealer I'm trying to use up at the moment. It's the Kosas Revealer Concealer. I have mine in shade 3.5 and this is a really weird shade. I feel like it gives my skin a green tinge or like a really strong yellow undertone and I don't really like that. Sometimes I use this kind of as a foundation, but I have noticed that it does cake up a little bit around my nose when I use it around that area. Under my eyes, it doesn't really cake up as much, but I find that this combined with the Cloud Set powder makes my mascara smudge. Has anyone else noticed that? Becca under eye. So I have this little baby one that's unopened and this will definitely get used, but because I am, making good progress on this product, I really do think it makes a huge difference to my under eyes. So something that's kind of in a similar vein with a similar texture is a Glossier Stretch Concealer. I got this first before they expanded their shade range. I think this shade is maybe just a little bit too dark for me, and you can see I did actually hit pan in it because I did like it. So then I bought this shade, which then is too light. So now I kind of don't reach for either. I don't use this as much nowadays because I'm not into super dewy things at the moment. Like I've really gotten back into the NARS Soft Matte Concealer. Also, when I try to set this concealer, it just meshes really strangely with the powder. I don't really know why, so it kind of puts me off using it. It does get a little bit sticky. Used to love it, but not so much anymore. It does have kind of a light to medium coverage. It looks dewy, so all of the things I should like, but because it interacts weirdly with setting powder, I don't reach for it that much. This Marc Jacobs Stick Concealer is so good. It really reminds me of the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. It's got a similar finish, similar coverage. You can see it blends out super easily to kind of sets itself, to be honest, but unfortunately it's discontinued. Another discontinued product is the Becca Ultimate Coverage Concealer. This is not a good concealer. It's so sticky. No. Onto some of my favorite ones. Not the Pat McGrath. This is not one of my favorite concealers. I don't know. I think you really have to wear a little to make sure it works. If I try to put too much on, it cakes, it dries out, my under eyes just looks cracked like the desert. If I wear a little bit, it looks better. So kind of a learning curve to this product, and for the price point, I don't think you should have a learning curve. It should just work. I definitely prefer the foundation, but I need to use this up. Like, come on. This was expensive. And it's got glass packaging. So bougie. Okay, so Shiseido concealer. It's in the self-refreshing Synchro Skin line. It is nice, but I have noticed it making my skin look dry sometimes when my skin is not very happy. I mean, partly that's just my skin, I guess. So again, I kind of have to be careful with this concealer. It's got a similar performance to the Pat McGrath. Now a concealer I really, really like is the NARS Soft Matte. I have mine in the shade Custard. I think it's maybe a little bit too yellow for me, but look how much I've used. This is how much I love it. It just works, and I feel like it's, from the name, is something that I wouldn't like, but I've mentioned in my all-time favorite makeup video before, these two combined together is just perfect. Because it's a creamy concealer in a pot, when you first apply it, is, not drying, but as you blend it out, it kind of sets itself. It looks more matte, more of a powdery finish, but not drying in a way whatsoever, and it's got amazing coverage. It's just a really good classic. Let's talk primers now. Okay, so if you watched my all-time favorite makeup video, I talked about the Supergoop Glow Screen, and I know it's technically a sunscreen, but honestly, I feel like I use it more like a primer because I don't know, I just don't feel protected by it from the sun. The finish of this, I feel like, is exactly the same as Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. It's got this sort of metallic sheen to it. I haven't used this in a long time, actually. And looking at it now, it's nice. Maybe I should get back into this. And the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. I have mine in shade 2. Do you see what I mean? I feel like they give a really similar vibe. So obviously this has sunscreen in it, but I feel like the two products perform almost identical. And obviously, if you watch my all-time favorite makeup video, you know that I love the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. Just look at it back on the back of my hand, right? It gives your skin a beautiful, beautiful glow. I like it under foundation, over foundation, as a highlighter. I mean, mostly I do just use it kind of under foundation to make the foundation application a little bit more smooth. Such a good product. Another Becca product, Backlight Priming Filter. I'm not going to go into too much into this because it's discontinued. Glossier Future Dew. I really like this product as well as a primer. I feel like maybe it's a little bit more hydrating than the Charlotte Tilbury. And again, it also gives a skin just a really, really beautiful glow. It's a little bit more sticky, so it's definitely something I wouldn't wear over foundation. It does have a little bit of a fragrance to it, which is not my favorite thing, but I do really like how my skin feels and looks when I wear this. Just a beautiful glow. So this is a super random product. I bought a discovery box from the website called Naturissimo, and it had this in it. This is Norwich London Illuminating Face Shimmer, and just let me tell you, this is so shit. It says, for a natural sun-kissed radiance. I hate it so much. So just let me squirt it on the back of my hand, and hopefully you'll be able to see why. So it says you can apply a small amount to fingers, dot over the face and décolleté, then lightly smooth over the skin. Can be worn under or over moisturizer or blended into foundation for added radiance. I would not recommend you wear it in the way that the direction says. I mean, I wouldn't recommend you wearing this at all, to be honest, because it's just glitter city. It's just liquid glitter. Seriously, can you see that? And also, it's got loads of colour to it. It's got this really strong yellowy gold tone to it. Seriously, like, what is this? And it's got a funny smell as well. Overall, it's just a terrible, terrible product. It would just make you look like the Tin Man. I feel like maybe this will work as a sort of body glitter type thing. But on the face, like, hella no. Becca Under Eye Primer. I know this is technically an under eye primer, but I don't like it under my eyes. It actually makes my concealer look a lot more cakey under my eyes. It's got this kind of slip silicone feel. It feels great. It makes my skin feel just super smooth as I apply it, but it makes my under eye concealer look worse. So I actually prefer using this around my cheek where the pores are a little bit bigger, but again, discontinued product. So another similar product, NYX Pore Filler. This does definitely blur out your pores. Can you see? I mean, I feel like you can already see on my hand as well. And that's just because it mattifies everything. You know, your pores is going to look minimized when there isn't so much light bouncing off of it. It's almost kind of like a trick of the eyes. And also it makes my skin feel really smooth. I think this is like a pretty cool product. Lastly, the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. I've used this a couple times and honestly, I just don't think it does anything. It feels nice when I touch it and when I apply it. I feel like it kind of tries to do what a NYX concealer does, but doesn't get there, kind of gets there halfway. Don't hate it, but I just don't feel like it does very much for my skin.